Today in writing, we are going to continue to talk about the parts of a friendly letter, and I am going to review the 5 parts of a friendly letter: the date, greeting, body, closing, and signature. You might remember this from when I first introduced a friendly letter. Once again, the 5 parts are the date, greeting, body, closing, and signature. These 5 parts are also found in this order. The date is always at the top in this spot in a letter. The greeting always starts off the beginning of our letter, and it includes who we are addressing in the letter or who we are writing to. The body is always next, includes all of our important information and details. Next is the closing, and we'll talk about that a bit more today. And finally is the signature, which is your name. It is the person who has written the letter. I want you to notice the correct capitalization and comma in the date. When we write the date, just like you notice in calendar, we always capitalize the month. We always have the month, how many days are in the month, so the month, the day, or the number of days, then the comma, and then the year. Today in writing, you are going to think about who you are writing to when you are choosing your greeting and your closing. Right now, I want to talk about greetings and closings. There are different greetings and closings that we need to think about. Because when we choose our greeting, we are thinking about who we are writing to. When we are writing our letter, are we writing to our grandma, our grandpa, our mom, a cousin, a friend? Deciding who we are writing to in our letter helps us choose our closings. I wrote some examples up here. Dear Grandma, Dear Mom, Dear Annie, Dear Eli. These 2 people down at the end could be cousins, friends, classmates. But notice at the end of each one, Dear Grandma, Mom, Annie, and Eli, I included my comma. This is important for the end of each greeting. When you have decided who you are going to write to, next you're going to think about your closing. We have sincerely, yours truly, your friend, love. I'm going to add my name just so you can see. So when you write your closings, you would say sincerely, and then your name. Sincerely, Mrs. Semin. Yours truly, Thomas. Your friend, Elena. Love, Mrs. Semin. When you're choosing your closings, you want to think about what closing you would use if you were writing to somebody you did not know as well as maybe your mom or your grandma. You might choose sincerely or yours truly. But if you were writing to your grandma or your mom or your cousin, you might choose love or your friend. But we might choose sincerely or yours truly if you're writing to somebody that you might not know as well as maybe a family member. So today, I know that I am going to write to Mrs. Ward. Mrs. Ward is a second grade teacher at our school. And I already know that I'm going to write to Mrs. Ward about my topic that I picked earlier in the week about spending time at the cottage. And I'm going to pick my greeting. And I know that I'm going to say, "Dear Mrs. Ward, and Mrs. Ward is my friend, and I am going to choose this closing. Your friend, Mrs. Semen." I know that I'm going to choose your friend. Oh, I'm going to make sure that comma is nice and dark. Your friend. That's what I'm going to choose as my closing. So let's get started on drafting a friendly letter. I know that to begin drafting my friendly letter, I'll need my flowchart from earlier in the week. This has my topic and my main events in order. I know that I am writing to Mrs. Ward about the time I spent at the cottage. And my main events are: we swam in the lake, we ate lunch outside, went for a boat ride, and we had a fire. So I have looked at my topics. I have decided who I am going to write to. So I am going to make sure that I have my page ready. And the first thing that I am going to write down is at the very top, the date. And the date will always go in the top right-hand corner. And today's date is September 24th, 2020. Remember, we capitalize the first letter in our month, and we always have our comma separating the day and the year. The next thing that I have is I move back over here to the left side and I write my greeting. I remember that I chose my greeting as Dear Mrs. Ward because that is who I'm writing to, Mrs. Ward. Dear Mrs. Ward. Capital D, Dear Mrs. Ward, comma. Dear Mrs. Ward, comma. Mrs. Semen is going to switch to a pencil. Dear Mrs. Ward. So you are noticing my date and my greeting. That is 2 of the parts that we need for our friendly letter. The next part that we need is the body. The next part of our friendly letter that we need is the body. And so I am writing to Mrs. Ward about the time I spent at my cottage. So, what did we do first? This is why my flowchart is important, because I wrote the events, my main events, down in order. We swam in the lake. What did we do first? We swam in the lake. So I'll start with that. I would like to add some words that will help Mrs. Ward know when these things happened. So I'm going to start with, Dear Mrs. Ward, I will say, last Saturday, I swam in the lake at the cottage. Last Saturday, I swam in the lake at the cottage. Period. But I know, as a writer, second graders, I'm not just going to write down the main events and then just be done. I know that it is, as a writer, it is important to add details to my writing. We swam in the lake. Can I say anything else about the lake or how I felt? What it looked like? It's important to add details. Last Saturday, I swam in the lake at the cottage. The lake. I'm going to write a sentence that describes the lake a little bit, or maybe how the water felt. I swam in the lake at the cottage. The water felt very cold. Yes, I like that. One little detail sentence that helps describe that main event. I'm going to look at my next topic. Ate lunch outside. Well, I'm moving on to my next main event. So I think that I will use a word next. Next, we ate lunch outside. Next, we ate lunch outside. What can I add as a nice detail sentence to go with this? What can I add? Next, we ate lunch outside. Oh, I know. My cousins and I helped clean up. Now I'm going to look at my flowchart again. What is my next main event? Went for a boat ride. Well, I can't just write down went for a boat ride. I need a word that will help my reader know that we've moved on to another event. What are my sequence of event words, my time-ordered words? First, next, then, second, last, then. I like the word then. Then, everyone got in the boat and we went for a ride. Then, everyone got in the boat and we went for a ride. Can I add anything to this? I'm really trying to think about how I felt on the boat, what it felt like on the boat ride. What did it feel like to me? I think almost every time on a boat ride, it feels very windy. I think I'll add that then. Then everyone got in the boat and we went for a ride. The wind was wild. I think that needs an exclamation mark. The wind was wild. Hey, my flowchart one more time. We had a fire. Let's do the word last. Last, my family built a fire. Last, my family built a fire. Was there anything special about the fire that I want to include in this? The wind was wild. Last, my family built a fire. Do I have anything special or a detail I could add to that? How did I feel around the fire? Maybe I will say, my family built a fire. We laughed and told stories. We laughed and told stories. I think that I like that best. But something important that I want to make sure that I end my letter with is that I need to keep in mind that I am writing to somebody, right? I'm writing to Mrs. Ward. And to kind of end my letter, and something that it's important that we'll kind of talk about more in writing, is I can kind of wrap up my letter in a way to really tell her how I felt about my experience. Let me give you an example. This is how I'm going to end this. I can't wait to go back. This last sentence, I can't wait to go back. This is telling Mrs. Ward how I really felt. And it's telling her that maybe I'm looking forward to an experience again, or maybe I'm looking forward to the future doing something similar. But I think this last sentence really gives Mrs. Ward or the reader a really good idea of the experience that the reader had about the activity that I did with my family. So if you wrote down or you're writing about playing games, maybe you had a really good time playing games, so you can't wait to play that game again. Or maybe you are looking forward to learning a new board game next time. Okay, so you can always make that as your last sentence, right? Think about something like that. Maybe you writing about a picnic that you went on. The activity was that you went on a picnic with your family. Maybe you are going to say that you can't wait to pack a different lunch next time or try a new food. So that is something to think about, kind of like a little wrap-up sentence. So I'm going to include my closing. Now, for my closing, I'm coming back over here. Do you see the date? So the same side as the date, the right-hand side. And I am going to write my closing though. So the closing that I picked for Mrs. Ward, because Mrs. Ward is my friend, so I'm going to pick your friend. Your friend, comma, and then my name goes right below it. So this is just a draft of my friendly letter. I'm probably going to want to go back in and add some adjectives. I might want to tell more about the lunch I ate, or I might want to describe the boat more. But right now, this is what I have so far. Maybe I'll want to fix my detail sentence. Maybe I need to fix my spelling. Maybe I have to fix my handwriting. This isn't my final copy. This is a draft. This is just what I'm starting to work on. Now it is going to be your turn to draft your own friendly letter using your flowchart that you created the other day. Try to use words such as first, next, last to help your reader know when you are moving from one main event to another. Think about the types of greetings and closings. Who are you writing to? Who do you want it to be from? Sincerely, yours truly, your friend, love. Your flowchart looked something like this, where you did 4 rectangles. You picked your topic, which was an activity you did with your family. And then you wrote the 4 main events in here. So you should have that part done already. And then this is what we're going to practice with. This is our date, greeting, closing, signature, and the body is all of this. The 5 parts: date, greeting, body, closing, signature. So once again, you are going to begin drafting your own friendly letter using your flowchart that you created. Remember, you picked your own topic, or you picked an activity that you have done with your family. You filled out 4 rectangles with the main events, just like mine. Your turn.